Hello everyone and welcome to this week's video. Today I'm going to show you how to factor second degree trinomials. Today we're going to factor these types of expressions. They're second order because they have the variable. It's squared, so it's to the power of 2, so that's second order. And they're trinomials because they have three different terms. One's squared, one's to the power of 1, and one's called the independent term. The purpose of factoring these types of expressions is to make them equal to the product of two single order polynomials, just like x plus or minus something times x plus or minus something. Let's start with an example. So notice that the coefficient in the quadratic term is equal to 1, so we don't have to worry much about it. The first thing that you have to do with these expressions is just take the square root of the first term and put it in the parentheses. The square root of x squared is x, so that's what I'm gonna do. So I just write the parentheses and put the square root of the first term in both of them, so x and x. The sign that you're gonna put here is gonna be the same sign that you have in your second term. In this case, this is negative. The sign that you're gonna put here is the product of the signs of your second and third terms. So negative times a positive is a negative. Finally, we have to deal with the numbers that we're going to put here and here. So we have to find two numbers that added together give us negative 10 and multiplied together give us 16. What I always do is take my independent term and decompose it in prime factors. So I just take my 16 in here and try to decompose it in prime factors, which are 2. So we end up with an 8 here. When we divide it by 2 again, we end up with a 4. Divided by 2 again, we end up with a 2, and divided by 2 again, and we end up with a 1. So we can take any set of these numbers and multiply them together to get our first term, and the ones that we don't use are going to give us our second term. We can have any set of these numbers, multiply it together and get one of the numbers, and the product of the other numbers that we don't use is going to give us our second number. Know that we have to add the numbers because, well, both of the numbers are going to be negative, and we want negative 10. So negative whatever plus negative whatever is going to give us negative 10. If we multiply 2 times 2 times 2, we're going to get 8. This 2 we're not using it, so our second number is going to be 2. So minus 8 minus 2 gives us negative 10, and minus 8 times negative 2 gives us 16 positive. Quick tip, don't ever forget that our largest number has to be in our first term. So we end up with 8 in here and a 2 in here. Now let's move on to our next example. We're going to do the exact same thing as we did here. So take the square root of your first term and put it in the parentheses, x and x. Now let's deal with the signs. So we know that this sign is going to be the exact same sign that we have in our second term. So that's a positive. And the second sign is going to be the product of our two signs. So positive times a negative, it's and negative. Finally, to find the numbers, we just have to decompose our independent term in prime factors. So we have our 12 here, and we're going to divide it several times by prime factors until we get 1. So we can take the divided by 2, we have 6, divided by 2 again, and we end up with 3. And that 3 we can divide it by 3, and we get 1. Out of those numbers, we have to find two numbers that added together give us positive 4 and multiplied together give us negative 12. Let's try 2 times 2 by themselves, so 4 and 3 by itself. We would write our largest number in the first term, which would be 4, and the smallest one in the second one. However, 4 minus 3 is 1, not 4, so we cannot work with those numbers. What if now we take 2 times 3, which is 6, and we lift the 2 by itself. So let's put our largest number in our first term, 6, and the smallest one in the second one. So x plus 6, x minus 2. We know that 6 minus 2 is 4, and 6 times negative 2, it's negative 12. So those numbers are really good. Now things are going to get a little bit different because now we have a number different than 1. This with our squared term. Now some teachers are going to tell you just multiply this number by this number, and they just do a whole bunch of stuff, and you do this and then you divide it. No. That's just weird, and don't do it. I'll show you how to do it step by step. Now let's just multiply all the terms by 2 and divide them all by 2. We just changed the form of the expression, so we're not changing the expression itself. We end up with 4x squared plus, just show it, don't do it, don't actually multiply them together. So it's 2 times 3x plus 2. And we divide it all by 2. Now let's just follow these steps that we followed before. So the square root of 4x squared is 2x, so 2x. And we cannot forget to divide everything by 2, okay? Now let's take care of the signs. So the sign that we're gonna put here is the same that we have with this term. So it's just positive sign. And the sign that we're going to put here is the product of the signs that we have here. So positive times positive is going to give us a positive number. So let's find the numbers that we're going to put here. So let's just decompose 2 in prime factors. So 2, so we can just divide by 2 and we end up with a 1. So we don't have too much choice. So we just have 2 and 1 as the numbers. I know there's no 1 here, but we can always divide 1 by 1 as many times as we want. So let's pretend which is divided by 1. So now you have the 2 and you have the 1. Finally, we have a common factor here, which is the 2. So we can take it out of the equation as 2 times x plus 1, 2x plus 1, and divide it all by 2. And this 2 will cancel out with this 2. So we end up with just x plus 1 times 2x plus 1. And now we're done. Let's do the next example. So let's take the square root of our first term. We know that this would be like a 9. So we just write 3x and 3x. And don't forget to divide everything by 3. Now, if we want to take care of the signs, we know that the sign that we're going to put here is the same sign as your second term. So it's a negative. And the sign that we're going to put here is the product of our 2 signs. So negative times a negative is a positive number. Finally, let's decompose our independent term. So let's remember we multiplied everything by 3. So 3 times 8 would be 24. So we have to decompose 24. So 24 we can divide by 2, which would give us 12. Divided by 2 again would be 6, divided by 2 again, would be 3, and divided by 3 would be 1. So we're done with our decomposition. Now we have to find 2 numbers that added together give us negative 10, and multiplied together give us 24. Remember that we want those numbers that we add together be equal to your unchanged second term. So that's why in here we don't multiply 2 by 3. Because, well, 2 plus 1 would never be like 6. Well, it would be 3. So we can see that instead of adding those numbers together, we're going to have to subtract them, because one of them is going to be negative and the other one is going to be positive. So it would make sense that the first number was greater than negative 10. So when we subtract the positive number, we end up with like a smaller negative number. You know what I mean? So we know that 2 times 2 is 4, so that's not going to be like the first number. So we don't think about it. Let's try 12. So 2 times 2 is 4 times 3, it's 12. So let's just try with 12. So we know that 2 times 2 is 4 times 3, it's 12. So all of them together would be 12. And this would be just 2 by itself. So our largest number will always go in the first term. So here would be the 12, and the 2 would be here. So negative 12 plus 2 would be negative 10, and negative 12 times positive 2 would be negative 24, which would be like 8 times 3, which is equal to 24, which is this number. And our job is not done yet. We can still factor a 3 out of here. So, well, it would cancel with this 3. So let's pretend this was like the 3 here, x minus 4. 3x plus 2, and divided by 3. This 3 would cancel out with this one, and our final expression would look like x minus 4 times 3x plus 2. And we're done. So that was it for this video. I really hope it was helpful and that you guys liked it. And don't forget to give it a big thumbs up and leave a comment down below and subscribe. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye.